Donald's Duck is the 5th episode of the 3rd series, based on the story of the same name from the Railway series book Oliver the Western Engine. This episode stands out for most fans of the TV series because it's another duck-centered episode. And as I've mentioned, Duck is one of the most popular characters in the TV series. But is the story as popular as the character himself? Let's take a look. Duck the Great Western Engine works very hard on the island of Sodor. Whether he is pulling coaches, taking trucks or shunting in the yard, he always does the work quickly and without complaint. One day, the Fat Controller comes to see Duck to thank him for his hard work in the yard, then asks him if he would like to have a branch line of his own, which Duck happily accepts. Taking charge of his new line, Duck is happy at being given such a big responsibility. He finds it to be quite scenic, running along the coast and into a port where ships dock. Duck very much enjoys exploring the new line as well as being close to the sea, remarking that it's just like being on holiday, and is soon busier than ever. The Fat Controller is building a shed at Timberport, and Duck helps out with the construction along with the other engines while his passengers are looked after by Bertie. Although it is a long job, everyone helping means that the shed will be finished on time. Duck is still feeling the importance of his new responsibility and enjoys talking endlessly about them. One night in the shed, he starts telling Donald the Scottish engine how important he is to the line now. Donald is sleepy, but when Duck carries on, Donald, at the end of his tether, mocks him by making quacking noises and saying that Duck sounds like he laid an egg. Duck is offended by this joke and tells his crew about it the next day. Duck's fireman has a plan to pay back Donald and tells Duck and the driver. They all agree, but soon Duck is back at work and nothing else is said, not even a quack. That night, however, when Donald goes to sleep, Duck's crew drops something into the Scottish engine's water tank. The next morning, when Donald stops for water, his crew are astounded when a white duckling pops out of his water tank. Donald sees the funny side of the joke, and the duckling is friendly towards him and his crew and is allowed to ride on his tender despite the other engines often teasing him about her. The duckling soon tires of travelling and hops off at a station, which is where she ends up staying. That night, Donald's crew decides to pay Duck back, and the next morning, the driver and fireman find an egg in a nest box under the Great Western Engine's bunker. Donald jokes that Duck must have laid it in the night, and Duck agrees that Donald has won. The duckling enjoys swimming and playing in a pond near her station where she can see the engines going past. The station master calls her Dilly, but to everyone else she will always be Donald's Duck. This is another one of those iconic episodes that everybody looks back on and remembers fondly when they talk about the TV series as well as the Railway series. And with good reason. And Duck the Great Western Engine gets another big time in the spotlight in this episode, being given his own branch line after having done so much hard work in the yard. And I absolutely love the scenery of his branch line, all these coastal lines and being near a beach. It just takes me back to my childhood days of going to Devon beaches in the summer. It just has that big connection with me. And I absolutely love the banter between Duck and Donald in this episode, especially in the night where Donald makes remarks about him sounding like a duck quacking. And I'm just going to say I like both versions of Michelangelo's narration for this scene. Both are equally as funny as each other, especially how he makes Donald sound quite funnily high-pitched at times.
You don't understand, Donald, how much the Fat Controller relies on me. "Och, aye," muttered Donald sleepily. "I'm Great Western, and I quack, quack, quack." "What?" "He heard quack, quack, you go. Sounds like he'd an egg laid. Now wheesh and let an engine sleep. Quack yourself," said Duck indignantly. "You don't understand, Donald, how much the Fat Controller relies on me." "Och, aye," muttered Donald sleepily. "I'm Great Western, and I quack, quack, quack." "What?" "Ye heard quack, quack, you go. Sounds like you'd an egg laid. Now wheesh and let an engine sleep. Quack yourself," said Duck indignantly.
It's just one of those funny moments that stands out to me a lot. And I'm just going to come out and say it right now. That little duckling is feckin' adorable. The second you see it on screen, it just looks so cute. I assume it's because it takes me back to my childhood of feeding ducks at Chew Valley Lake, since my parents would take me and my brother up there quite a number of times in the summer, and we'd take lots of bread slices along just to feed the ducks. It just brings me back to simple childhood days. And the episode was so popular that years later Mike O'Donnell and Junior Campbell would make a sing-along song about the duck. The episode has just had that much of an impact with the fans and the creators as well. Donald's Duck is a fun episode that takes me back to my childhood days of summers on the beaches, and it's just fun and adorable to see the duckling with Donald. It's another episode that I recommend checking out if you love the seaside and ducks in general. It's another great Duck the Great Western Engine episode that gives him and Donald some spotlight, and it's one of the few episodes where you see one of the Scottish twins rather than both of them take up the same story. So if you haven't seen this episode for a while, definitely go check it out and see what you've been missing out on. It's a fun little story with a cute little duckling, and a sense of being on a summer holiday when you see the beaches and the coastal lines of Duck's branch line. It's definitely worth checking out.